It's Thursday, so you know what that means. It's time for another Dear Katie where I answer your social media questions. So if you have a question, make sure that you head over to dearkatie.leaders-online.com, submit it, and it just might be covered in an upcoming video or in my email newsletter, which goes out every single Saturday morning. So if you want to subscribe to that, go to leaders-online.com/blog. Now, for this week's question, we have a great one, and that is, do cold messages ever work? I'm constantly getting them in my LinkedIn inbox and also on LinkedIn, and I never reply to them. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now, before we actually get into today's question, right before I got on this live stream, I was reminded of how important it is to keep promises to yourself. And this relates back to the cold messaging, which I will get there in a second. But long story short, this week I have two team members out, one for vacation, one is sick. And so I have some additional items on my plate that I'm taking care of. And as I saw Dear Katie on my calendar, I wanted to kick it off to another week. I wanted to just skip it and say, you know what, I'm going to keep working. I don't need to do this. I don't need to show up. It can wait. And how often do we do that as business owners? We put everyone, all of our clients' tasks in front of ours, and we put our business and our plans on the back burner. We do it way too often. At least most of us do. But whenever you make a promise, you make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do something and you actually do it, you start building momentum. And that momentum carries into all other aspects of not just your business, but your life. If you build up this habit of keeping the promises you make to yourself, whether that is showing up on a live stream, whether that's sending cold messages, whether that is doing your books, those habits, they build up over time. So the next time you tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to sign up for that half marathon and I'm going to run it, or whatever it may be, you are a lot more inclined to keep the promises to yourself because you know that you can trust yourself when you say it. So that was a little bit of a tangent in starting this Dear Katie, but I think it's important. And I think it's so important that we, as we go through our journeys, that we continue to make promises to ourselves that we know that we'll keep. Which, like I said, that relates back to cold messages. And so, like I started this off with, the question was, do cold messages ever work? I'm constantly getting them in my LinkedIn inbox and also on LinkedIn. I never reply to any of them. So I want to hear from you. If you are tuning in, do you reply to cold messages? If so, what ones? What makes you reply? What ones do you not reply to? Let's have a conversation about it. And honestly, cold messages, they get a bad rep for a lot of reasons. A lot of them, they are approached the wrong way. And so, of course, they don't work. People, they just send messages without taking the time to develop a relationship first. And whenever I get those messages that are just clearly templated, they haven't taken the time to look at my profile, it shows. Now, before I go into the right way to approach cold messaging, we want to make sure that we've covered some basics first. And so, before you even start cold messaging, take a look at your profile, do a quick audit. Is it up to date? Do you have a current headshot? Are you producing content on your profile that shows that you're an expert at what you do? So, the last thing you want to do is send someone a message and then they come to your profile and you look like a totally random person that they can't trust. So make sure before you start cold messaging, you've checked all of these things. You've done an audit. It's clear that you are an expert, you're knowledgeable at what you do. And also, it's clear that you are a real human that's involved, engaged, active, and present. Okay, so once you've done that, now what should you do whenever it comes to cold messaging? Now, the number one thing you want to do is just make the goal to build a relationship. So, if you think about the first time that you went on a date with someone, you probably had a conversation that went back and forth. You both asked questions about one another. But let's say that you went on a date where one person, they just talked about their self, they never asked about you. You felt like they didn't take the time to get to know you. Would you be interested in going on a second date with them? Probably not. So at the end of the day, whenever you think about cold messaging, you need to show interest in the other person and you can't make it just about you. So you want to make sure that you are asking them questions, getting to know them. Again, focus on building the relationship. And of course, if you want to send better cold messages, you cannot just send the copy and paste messages. Instead, show that you took the time to look at their profile before, ask about the content they posted, ask about their history. Make sure that you show that you're genuinely interested in connecting with them. So, for example, you could say that you appreciated their article on X subject and then ask them a question. Or maybe you ask them how they got involved in the industry. The options are truly endless here, but the important part is that you are asking them questions. And if you want to take it a step further than just typing out these messages, send a video or a voice message. I have seen such high response rates with both of those. In fact, there have been very few that I've sent and I've not gotten a reply to. So if you really want to stand out, go ahead, send that video or voice message. Now, whenever you're sending these messages, something else to think about is not just sending questions, but asking open ended questions that encourage a conversation to continue. So you don't just want to ask questions that lead to a yes or a no, because our goal is to get to know the other person. And if we just get a yes or a no back, then the conversation is pretty much dead in the water. Another thing you want to think about is treating this like a networking event. So, for some reason, people seem to place different expectations on networking online versus offline. And even worse is people behave differently in a negative way online. They say things that they would never say offline at a networking event. So, if you ask yourself, would I say this in person? And the answer is yes, then it's probably a good thing to say or a good question to ask online. If you say no, then don't ask it that question online or don't respond to the message in the way that you've come up with, again, if you wouldn't do that in person. Okay, we've talked about a little bit about sending the messages, but here comes another important piece. If you want your cold message strategy to work, you have to prioritize the follow up. I can't tell you how many messages that I've gotten or I've seen clients get where people ask to have a calendar link or they say they want to book a call and you send over that calendar link and then nothing actually happens until a follow-up's done. So if someone is interested in having a call with you because of your cold messages, or maybe they've seen your content and they reach out and they say, "Hey, will you send me your calendar?" Whenever you send that calendar, I want you to also do something else. Place a task in your CRM or your project management system to follow up in a week later if that person hasn't scheduled. People are busy. Sometimes their activity levels on social media is different. So they might be online multiple days in a row and then they don't log on for weeks. You want to make sure that you are monitoring and ensuring that these people book an appointment that have indicated that they want to book an appointment. So don't forget the follow up. And if you follow all these steps, you are absolutely sure to have success with cold messaging. But again, most people, they don't approach cold messages the right way. They use copy and paste templates, or maybe they're even using automation to send them, and that just doesn't work. People are still humans at the end of the day, and they're looking to build real relationships. So whenever you take the time to truly build real relationships, things work. Surprising, right? Okay, I am just looking through some of these comments here. Someone said Jason said that they never reply to cold messages unless it's personalized, showing someone read my profile or they did their research about me and why they would want to talk. Yep. Carol says, nope, never replied to them. They don't usually pertain to me anyway. Yeah. So the two commonalities between these is that they don't usually pertain to the person. So make sure that you show that you've done their homework. Other things you can do to help your messages is to take the time to actually go comment on some of their stuff before, like their posts. Show up some before you actually send a message. And then whenever you send that, you can say hey, I've been following your post. I found this interesting. You've clearly invested some time, but most people, they're not going to actually take the time to do that. So these are all great great comments here coming through. And if you have questions, you can always drop them in the comments and I'll either reply here or depending on what the question is, it might be moved to another Dear Katie. So if you're watching this on replay, still feel free to leave your comments and I will get them. And I will catch you in the next Dear Katie. Bye, everyone.